What's going on, Washington fans? The bye week is officially over, and so is our season, technically. If you've been watching for the duration of the season, you are probably checked out of everything like I am. So instead of really just looking forward to the next game coming up, we're really just kind of recapping, the bye week and stuff like that. One thing we can talk about is the NFL draft, and one thing I think a lot of us can agree on is that Washington really needs to build up this offensive line in the draft this season. We can talk about free agency. We can talk about, the money they have to spend and stuff like that. But with the free agency market this offseason coming up, I'm really just banking on Washington building this offensive line with a lot of young foundational pieces moving forward. So, we haven't had that left tackle of the future like we had with Trent Williams a long time ago. That obviously we lost him. He's doing very well out in the 49ers. So it's time to really just solidify this line. And we can debate all day long, like we have been all week. I have been on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at Josh Taylor FB. We've been talking about who's going to be quarterback next season if they roll with Sam Howell, or if they do decide to go Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, whoever. It doesn't matter if this offensive line isn't any better, because we've seen holes throughout the season. This isn't just a one-season thing. This has been a long time coming. It seems like that we've been really dying for Washington to have that long-term piece. And the offensive line this season has probably been the worst in the NFL. I think the Giants at some point were right there with the worst, and now here we are. I think Washington has the worst offensive line in the NFL right now. Nikki Nux says, Chiefs fan here, give us Bieniemy back. Funny enough, I don't know, Eric Bieniemy with us, I don't know, it's just not living up to the expectations of what I've had this season. A lot of talk is Eric Bieniemy's probably going to go to the Bears, which honestly, that's fine. Like I said, I'm cool with running with new offensive coordinator, new head coach, new everything. We would get a third-round comp pick if Eric Bieniemy does get hired by someone else, because he's still under contract for one more season. So you know what, Chiefs, if y'all want Eric Bieniemy back, that's fine. It's just something hasn't clicked. And you can talk about Andrew Wiley coming over here and how he's been one of the worst offensive linemen on this offensive line all season. There's two free agency signings this offseason that I had higher hopes for. And Andrew Wiley, after seeing how he performed in the Super Bowl against the Eagles, and I was like, I think this could be a great pick. I think this is a great signing. I really like this. Eric Bieniemy is bringing over one of his guys that knows the offense, and it's been one of the worst free agency signings in the last few years. Like William Jackson III type bad for Andrew Wiley, and then same with Nick Gates. He got benched weeks ago, and Tyler Larson hasn't been much of an upgrade either. So I'm going to go through and just really talk about, will Washington take Olu Fashanu or Joe Alt, one of those top few picks? Joe Alt finally announced today that he is declaring for the draft, so it's official. Olu Fashanu has already declared for the draft. He's good to go. They're both, in my opinion, top 5, top 6 picks. I don't see either of those guys getting out, because the offensive line this offseason coming up is a big need for a lot of teams. It's not just Washington, so that's something you have to keep in mind. It's not like we're just the only ones kind of fishing around and we're going to have our pick of players. That's not what's going to happen. You're going to see a run of a lot of guys. I mean, right now, when I'm going through my grading for the draft in the first round, I can see about 7 offensive linemen taken in the first round, maybe 8. Maybe there's a couple guys I'll talk about that can sneak in. So I'm going to talk about, is Washington going to take one of the top 5? And then if they don't, because they have the luxury, maybe it is the number 2 pick, maybe it is the number 3 pick. Maybe they go Drake May. Maybe they go Caleb Williams. Maybe they just go Marvin Harrison Jr. and get a blue chip prospect to really build around this team, because this team is, I promise you guys, this team is way more than just an offensive line away from being successful. And I'm not even going to talk about coaching. I'm going to leave that part out of it. But when you talk about just player-wise, this team is a lot of different pieces away from being a true contender. And I'm not talking about just, we're going to win some games against some good teams. I'm building to be a playoff caliber team that makes noise. We're trying to win the Super Bowl here. That is the goal every single season. It's not like, man, I want to be a 10-6, 10-7 team. I want to be a winning record. No, we are done with that. We are going new ownership. I have high hopes for the new GM. I'll do videos talk about the GM prospects and different different options there. Talk about like VPs, operation stuff. I'll talk about front office stuff as well. We got some time for that. We have a couple months until that happens. It's probably all gonna be done by the Senior Bowl. I think it's like middle of January, end of January is when all that kind of happens, like all the front office stuff. And I'll be going to the Senior Bowl this year. So follow me on Twitter at Josh Taylor FB. Follow the YouTube channel JTFB. I'll be doing interviews with players like I've done the last like 4 or 5 years, talking to a lot of these offensive linemen that I'm going to talk about today, actually, and really get to know these guys. Like Steve Avila is a guy I really wanted last year. Talked to him at the Senior Bowl. He was telling me how much Washington was in contacts with him, how much that we like were really wanting him. And then sure enough, he goes, I think he's on the Chargers or the Rams. I can't remember. He's on one of those teams. He's balling out this year. I think it is the Rams. I can't remember. I think it is the Rams, but he's like balling out this year. So Washington, like there were so many different things we could have done last year, the last few years. Like you can go all the way back to Christian Darrisaw and the Jamin Davis picking Jamin Davis over Christian Darrisaw, who's one of the top offensive left tackles in the league right now. I think he's like a top 3 right now. So it's just what could have been back then, but we're going to just wash that all away, and we're looking forward to the future. So let me go ahead and pull this up. I'm going to drop some polls for y'all. First one I'm going to drop here is, what position on the offensive line do you think Washington needs to upgrade the most? And to be honest with y'all, like just doing a deep dive, watching the film, and also looking at like the numbers on like PFF and stuff like that, it is staggering how bad the left guard and center spot for Washington has been this season. Like bad. We know how bad Wiley has been. Charles Leno has been hit or miss. He's either had some really solid games or he's had some bad games. The thing with him is just a little different because the salary cap's like almost 16 mil next year. I know the salary cap goes up, so maybe you keep him another year. I don't know. I really don't want to. But there's a lot that we're going to talk about that. But I'm going to go ahead and pull up the screen and really just show y'all what these options could look like and just go through some scenarios. That's what I'm doing today, is just saying, hey guys, this is what could happen with Washington if they decide not to do this, because a lot of people have a lot of different opinions, a lot of different options that they want to go with, and it's not that any of them are wrong. Let me see if I can. I was trying to do it a little bit different, but we'll make it work. Let's see here. So, like I said, I think a top 4 pick like is undoubtedly a lock for Washington right now, and I'm going to zoom in on this for y'all. I think it can go up to number 2. Like it can get it can get pretty high. It really depends on a couple things. I don't see New England really winning much. Maybe the Cardinals can sneak one. The Bears, the Giants, and the Titans really helped us out this week. Kind of like just solidifying us in that one game back from that number 4 spot. So we're getting some help. But that's what I'm going to talk about, is maybe Washington can decide, hey, we have a top prospect here, so maybe we can kind of either trade back or we can go with that, life-changing prospect that we're dying for and take an offensive lineman somewhere else. So you want to talk about, regardless if Washington takes a quarterback or we're going to take Marvin Harrison Jr., we're going to take Brock Bowers, whatever it is. Just say right now that we have the 4th overall pick. I think Caleb Williams, Drake May, maybe not. Latu goes number 3, obviously. I think maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. would go there. The Cardinals do need a left tackle, so I'm not ruling that out. They just got Paris Johnson Jr. last year on the right side. Maybe they go Olu on the left side. So this is what's telling. This is what I'm saying. Like that one pick can make a huge difference, as we know. Maybe we do have the 2 pick. Maybe we have the 3. But if we're stuck with the 4 pick still, I think either Olu Fashanu or Joe Alt will be there. And that's where the conversation really comes to is, do you think that Washington would take one of these offensive linemen with the top 4 pick? And I think you absolutely have to think about it. And I want to talk about the difference with Olu Fashanu and Joe Alt, because I think they're both phenomenal players, but I think they are different. Now, one thing that they do have that's very similar is they're both like 20 years old, probably going to be freshly 21 by the time their rookie season starts. That's what you want. They both have a lot of upside to them. But when it comes to Olu Fashanu, he is the best pass blocking tackle in this draft, and he's probably one of the best ones since like Tristan Wirfs, Rashawn Slater, like that caliber. He is undoubtedly the best offensive tackle in this draft, in my opinion. A lot of y'all know I covered Penn State for 2 years. Not this past year, but the year before that. And Olu Fashanu was a guy I got to watch plenty, in person, talking to him. after the games and stuff like that, just being on the field, getting to see him at the Rose Bowl and stuff like that up close and personal, even though he didn't play in it. But once he came back, like that was big news at Penn State. Like just knowing that they were going to get this guy back, he would have been a top 5 pick last season. Like undoubtedly, he would have been a top 5 pick. But he decided to come back. Is it risky? Sure. But I think it was good for him. Because once again, he's still undoubtedly a top 5 pick. In my opinion, a lot of people have him as offensive tackle 1. Some people have Joe Alt as offensive tackle 1. I saw that today as well. So I think it's a toss-up. When we want to talk about Olu Fashanu, though, he's the better athlete. He is the quicker feet. He's the faster guy. He can get those back steps better. He can, cut off that edge against fast pass rushers in the NFL, which obviously a raise up in competition going from college to the NFL. You're going to see these guys coming off the line quick. And I think Olu Fashanu is the best guy that can just plug into that left tackle spot and have the most seamless transition to the NFL. I think Olu is a natural at pass blocking. I think he can get a little bit better at functional strength in the running game. Very little, not much. Like there's not much to pick about Olu Fashanu. Like everything about this guy is a perfect prospect. There's not one thing I honestly don't really like about Olu Fashanu. Now with Joe Alt, you can talk about he's a stronger guy. He's a little bit stronger than Olu Fashanu. That lower strength, you want to talk about, pad level and stuff like that. Joe Alt is a little bit better at that. But the thing that Joe Alt might struggle with at the next level is getting those feet a little quicker, getting that speed that Olu Fashanu has. Olu is the quicker guy. But Joe Alt is the stronger guy. So he might be better in the run blocking when you want to go to the outside, when he's trying to move some bodies, create some holes and stuff like that. But when you're trying to pick up one of these fast-paced pass blockers, Olu Fashanu is undoubtedly the better prospect. Jonte 5 said, Wiley gave up second most pressures last year and Leno was third, and now they're both starting tackles for us. I knew where this was coming. Ron looked at OL and linebacker like they were punters and kickers, I would say long snappers, but they traded up for one of those, which is sad. I completely agree with you that Ron Rivera's really just ignored this position for so long. He just thought he could just plug just anybody in there. And I will say, and this is a conversation I'm going to have too. I'm probably only going to be on here for like 30 minutes today, but this is a conversation I'm going to have, quickly as well, is do you have to build the offensive line in the first round? And I think you can say no, especially in this draft, because you have long-time starters in that second round, maybe even the third round. There's a guy like Blake Fisher who could probably go third, fourth round. I could see him starting in the NFL at right tackle. There's a lot of good prospects that we're going to talk about. But people, that's the one thing, like I've talked about on Twitter and stuff, people like, if you're not picking one in the first round, you're failing. And I think that's a lazy take. Yes, a guy like Olu Fashanu is a must-draft like prospect. Like he's completely different. And I'm okay with putting Joe Alt in that conversation as well. But if a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. is on the board, or if you really think, Drake May is there and you really believe, and this is a completely different conversation that I've been having that I'm going to do some videos on, if you really believe you can upgrade the quarterback position, you should do it. Not saying that they will, but if you truly do your homework and say, guys, Caleb Williams is better than Sam Howell, Drake May is better than Sam Howell, Jaden Daniels is better than Sam Howell, then you have to do it. I understand nothing matters if your offensive line sucks, and that's true. But at the same time, you still need to upgrade the quarterback position like when you can. And I know Sam Howell's only had one season, but like I said, you're going to have a new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new front office. It's going to be different. Are they going to be willing to rebuild this team with a guy that they aren't 100% sure of at quarterback instead of saying, look, guys, we're going to get Drake May, we're going to get Caleb Williams, we're going to get Jaden Daniels, and we're going to build around them in the free agency, in the draft. We have 2 second-round picks, 2 really high second-round picks. There's a couple starters I'm going to talk about in that second round. This is just situational. Maybe this happens. If they decide to go quarterback, guys, do not freak out. If we don't get Olu Fashanu, I understand. If we don't get Joe Alt, if we go Marvin Harrison Jr., if we go Drake May, whatever. As a fan perspective of this, like content media aside, whatever the front office decides to do, I'm going to say, okay. I'm not going to throw my hands up and be like, what in the world? What are y'all doing? I'm going to trust this new regime that's going to come in because we have failed for many, many years. I am 30 years old. We've been a failure for the last 30 years that I can remember. And so I'm just going to trust what happens. So I'm just going to show y'all some scenarios of, what could possibly happen. But when it comes down to Olu Fashanu and Joe Alt, I think those are the biggest percent of possibilities of being drafted in that top 4, whether it's second, third, fourth overall pick that we have. I think that it's a huge chance. Like, it's time to stop ignoring that left tackle spot and get your guy of the future. So for this instance, I'm just going to mess around with the draft thing and just do all offensive linemen. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But if we're at 4 and Olu Fashanu is there, you have to go Olu Fashanu, undoubtedly. So like I said, if they go a different route, though, in that first round, and we are sitting here at pick 36, 37, like I said, 2 super high second-round picks, almost first-round picks, guys. Like, literally, we're 4 or 5 picks away from it. Do not freak out if they wait till this round to start getting some offensive linemen. So if we go Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4 or 3, wherever we are, cool. I'm fine with it. And I'm going to tell you why. There's a couple guys that could, like I said, I think there's going to be a good handful of guys taken in that first round. Maurice Mims from Georgia, right tackle. J.C. Latham from Alabama, right tackle. Talise Fuaga, my favorite right tackle in the draft. I could see them trading up to the first round if they do decide to go Marvin Harrison Jr., if they do decide to go, blue chip prospect over getting that guy first. And I just want to quick hit these guys. I don't think it's that likely, but if it is, it's still worth talking about because I really like what I've seen out of a lot of these guys. Talise Fuaga is the best mover in the draft. You want to talk about a guy that gets to second level, a guy that can just create holes in the running game. Martinez for Oregon State has been one of the most electric running backs in college football this season. It's been phenomenal to watch that Oregon State offense. And Talise Fuaga is steadily one of the best prospects that I've watched all offseason so far. There's still guys I'm watching. But if Washington decides, hey, we're going to trade back up into the first round, I think Talise Fuaga is a guy that's probably going to sneak up into the top 15, though. So that's going to be really tough to do. Maybe he's going to be too high out of reach for us. Same with J.C. Latham. Some have him above Fuaga. I'm obviously an Alabama fan. So I know Latham very well. And that game against Georgia in the SEC championship was probably one of the best single performances I've seen by an offensive lineman this season. So in the biggest stage, when it mattered the most, J.C. Latham strapped that helmet on and went to work. Really reminded me of Brian Branch last year against Kansas State in that bowl game. Just took over. But he's a right tackle, so it's not going to show up as much. Not like, oh, man, he's got interceptions. He's got all these going on. It's not the same. But still, J.C. Latham absolutely dominated Georgia in that game. We ran the ball on them. We had plenty of time to throw. It was just a flawless game for him. And the same with Mims. The thing with Mims, though, I think he is a late first rounder. He is still super raw. Maybe not super raw, but there's still a lot of upside that he's really tapping into. Great athlete. He's a younger guy. But I think that there's still another level that he can tap into. So it's one of those things like you never know what you're going to get out of him. But I think his floor is at a certain level, and it might be a little bit lower than other guys, transitioning to the NFL. But I think his ceiling can be higher than a lot of people expect. So I think Mims at that right tackle spot would be a great, selection if they decide to trade up into the first round. And then Graham Barton, a guy who a lot of people think might transition to guard in the NFL out of Duke. I think he can still play left tackle easily. But I would not be mad if, he went to left guard. Kind of remind me of Peter Skronsky last year from Northwestern. Kind of smaller arms a little bit, but I think he would still be a really good left tackle in the league. So pick 36 and 37 right now. Obviously, it might change before the season ends, but regardless, they're going to be right there. So if Washington doesn't trade back up into the first round and they decide, hey, guys, we're going to go Marvin Harrison Jr. or a quarterback, what do we do at that second pick? Troy Futanu has been one of the best offensive linemen in college football once again this year. This is a guy that people in the draft community are absolutely raving about. Like, he is just a really good player. He is a people mover. He's fast. He finishes blocks. He's a nasty blocker. He has high IQ. Like, he picks up stunts really well. I think Troy Futanu is a guaranteed starter at left tackle in the league. Once again, some people said, oh, he might go to guard. I don't see it. Like, he has the arm length, he has the strength. The thing with the Pac-12 this year is they had the best pass rushers in college football last season. And guys like Talise Fuaga, Troy Fatanu, just handle these guys with ease. You want to talk about lot two, Gabe Murphy, Braylon Trice, Jonah Ellis, you see there right above him that went to Utah. These were the best pass rushers in the NFL when it comes to production and stats wise. And Troy Fatanu, man, he is a ball player. 6'4", 317. They have him as the 41 overall ranked player in the draft. I think this is a guy that could sneak up into that top 35 range. Like I said, there's going to be a run of offensive linemen that come in that middle first, late first, and then the second round is where you're going to have a lot of value picks. And in a draft like this, I think this is a really talented draft. They still have to update some players and stuff like that. I don't think Shedeur Sanders comes out. I don't think Carson Beck comes out either. But the top of this second round pick is going to have first round talent in it. Guys like TJ Tampa. Washington has a need at corner. Chris Broswell had his best season at Alabama. Production stud. Fast off the line. We need an edge rusher. Do we go edge rusher in the draft? You're going to be tempted with a Michael Penix Jr. here. Terrion Arnold had teach tape all season long at Alabama. Once again, Kamari Lassiter, same thing. There's going to be a lot of top talent here, and I think offensive line falls under that category as well. Troy Futanu. And if you scroll down here, it is not a stretch if you decide to go with a Jordan Morgan. Once again, Pac-12 guy, left tackle, really strong showing this season. His tape impressed the heck out of me. I think he's going to the Senior Bowl. I think that's the guy that I have on my list. Patrick Paul's going to the Senior Bowl. It's Chris Paul's brother. I plan on talking to him at the Senior Bowl. He just followed me back on Twitter. So I'm making my list of prospects that I'm talking to at the Senior Bowl coming up in February, like I do, like I said, every single season. And offensive line is at the top of my list. And once again, I think Patrick Paul, last time I checked when the season ended, he was the number one pass blocking left tackle in all of college football, according to PFF. He was the number 8th overall because his run blocking needs to get a little bit better. But same, like I said, Jordan Morgan, just production stud. I think he had a big injury. Was it last year or maybe the year before that? But he just looked completely back to normal. He looked like himself this year. Just an absolute stud. And like I said, guys, these are guys that I think could start at the next level. Are they your guaranteed blue chip prospect like Olu Fashanu or Joe Alt? No. And I'm not going to sit here and sell them as that. But if they can start and have almost that same kind of production, same kind of, consistency at the left side of the line for the next 5, 6, 7, however many years you want them here, is it okay, once again, taking that Marvin Harrison Jr. pick, trading back and getting Brock Bowers still in the top, 8, whatever it is, taking a quarterback? Yes, it is okay. I promise you, if they don't take Olu Fashanu, if they don't take Joe Alt, and they decide to go with one of these, generational players or these blue chip prospects and a Marvin Harrison Jr. and such, it is okay for them to wait for one of these picks. And we do have 2 second-round picks. So like I said, maybe they decide trade a pick from next year or whatever and trade up one of those second-round picks into the end of the first if there's an offensive lineman that we really like there. So maybe even if we do go, Olu and Joe Alt and we want a right tackle, the right tackles are that middle to end of the first round with the Fuaga, with the Mims and Latham. I think you can throw Kingsley in there too. He's probably not too far down here out of BYU. Yeah, there's Kingsley there. He's a guy that can play left and right tackle, like easily. Like he did both really well at BYU. Same with Tyler Guyton. I'll talk about him here in a second. So I think it is okay if they decide to wait till that second round because our second round is almost first rounders anyways. And the talent is there. The talent allows for it to happen this season. So after these picks, after pick 36 and 37, we have pick 68. Now, one thing I want to talk about real quick too is a guy that's been staring me down since I scrolled down here. That's Jackson Powers Johnson. The center position is something I want to talk about real quick. Like I said, it's been one of the worst positions on the offensive line. What's going on? DLAX 21. And I know we got Stromberg last year. The reports out of camp said he just didn't look ready to start. From what we saw, it wasn't too pretty in the few snaps he got in game, anyways. But then he got hurt, and he's out for the rest of the season now. So there's just a giant question mark at center next year. Nick Gates has no business being here next year. Tyler Larson's a free agent. He has no business being here next year. Stromberg can easily be a backup. But Washington cannot afford, regardless, once again, who's at quarterback next season, Washington cannot afford to have a liability at center again next season. Like, it cannot happen. I think Jackson Powers Johnson could be a guy like that John Michael Schmitz that went to Minnesota that the Giants drafted. I think he went like early second, if I remember correctly. I think Jackson Powers Johnson could be that guy. He can also play left guard. I want to say he played left guard a good bit at Oregon. If we look, it'll tell you. Oh, he played right guard. So he can play guard too. Like last year, he was the majority of the snaps at right guard. But then this year, he was just an absolute stud. I want to say he won the award for best center. Don't quote me on that. But he's my center one right now. There's a lot of guys kind of staring him down. But once again, if he was a pick for 37 or whatever it is, I'm fine with that too. So for the sake of it, if I'm picking an offensive lineman at pick 36, I'm taking Troy Fashanu, and I'm not even blinking about it. Like, I would run up to the podium so fast. But if I went corner, and my second option would honestly be Jordan Morgan. I think he's been phenomenal out of Arizona. Like I said, just going back and watching the tapes the last little bit, I love what I saw. So pick 68. Like I said, Kingsley just went before this. Maybe he falls. Jackson Powers Johnson went at 61. So we kind of missed out on those, but have no fear because this draft is absolutely loaded with guys. And I'm going to talk about Tyler Guyton real quick, right tackle out of Oklahoma. Once again, younger guy, still raw. Kind of reminds me of Mims a little bit. But Guyton's just a freak athlete, just a solidified stud that can really tap into that next level in the draft and prepping for the draft and at the next level. I think he can get better, but there is still kind of an unknown there. How long could he start right away? Maybe not. But we're talking about third round. But this guy has the upside to be a long-term starter if he can get there. I think he could. So, like, honestly, once again, round 3, say we go Olu Fashanu round 1, and then we have the 2 picks in the second. We take like corner, linebacker, whatever. I would double down and in the third round go Tyler Guyton at right tackle because I think that he could be a guy, once again, that just has that upside. And I don't want Andrew Wiley anywhere on this line next season. Honestly, I don't even know if I want him to move to guard like he did at Kansas City a little bit. People are saying, why haven't we seen that? I don't know. I feel like by now, like Chris Paul has been benchable for weeks. He's been really bad for weeks. And you might as well put Andrew Wiley left guard and then move Lucas out to right tackle, but it's not happening. So, but a third round option, absolutely going Tyler Guyton here. Like the pick a lot. So we're getting into that little range of some sneaky gems. Like, all right, Josh, like fill me in on who are some guys that you might want to tell me about. And the polls actually kind of surprised me too, looking at what position needs upgraded the most between left guard and right tackle. It seems like that is the main focus there, and I'm 100% agreeing on that. Once again, I'm going to talk about some left guards as well. Tate Ratledge is a right guard. I want to see he's a right guard. Yeah, right guard. Out of Georgia, haven't really watched a lot of his tapes yet, but I think Sam Cosmi's locked down that right guard spot. So he's actually been a top 7, top 8 guard in the NFL, like left or right guard, which is kind of surprising. So now we're at that comp pick. We're at that 100th pick. Shout out to Chase Young. Where a guy like Zach Frazier's, once again, a really good center. No clue why he would go to the Eagles. But I think he's a guy that a lot of people are high on too. He's a center one for a lot of people. It doesn't surprise me at all. Christian Mahogany is right guard as well. Christian Haynes is a right guard. Kieran is, I think he played left tackle. He went to Yale. He declared the other day as well. That's a guy, maybe middle option here. But that's just some options that went before us. But Zach Frazier is absolutely a guy that could be there at pick 100. I would love it. If he fell there, I think he's a top 90 pick. And once again, the need for offensive line in this draft is huge for a lot of teams. And I'd be fine with him. Like, and people are saying, what about Stromberg? What about Stromberg? Once again, Washington cannot afford to have that liability at center next season. Sorry, I need some water. But outside of him, Dominic Pooney, I think he's a left tackle, right tackle. Out of Kansas, he's going to be at the Senior Bowl as well. Man, if I'm picking one here, Oh, here we go. Cedric Von Pron from Georgia. Zach Zenner, he got hurt at the end of the season. I haven't really seen what his injury was. But I just remember he got hurt pretty bad. But he might be fine. But Cedric Von Pron, let me pull up his stats. Because that's a guy I watched a good bit as well. Yeah, I mean, this is everything that shows up on tape. Great run blocker, great pass blocking. Zone grades high. Hasn't allowed a sack since 2021. Like, the dude hasn't even allowed a hit this year. 8 hurries, and that's it. Yeah, Von Pron checks out. I think he's going to be at the Senior Bowl as well. That would be my pick. Once again, Washington cannot afford, and like I said, it's a 3rd-round pick. We've done way worse in the 3rd round. I'd be totally fine. We can't afford to roll out anybody at quarterback. But outside of him, who am I looking at? Like I said, Zach Zenner's a guy who's there. This is a guy I talked about a little bit earlier, Blake Fisher. You want to talk about opposite of Joe Alt, Blake Fisher's right tackle. Looking at his stuff, he can get a little bit. The thing I've seen out of him is just like strength, functional strength, and his footwork needs to get a little bit better. But if he can clean some things up, I think he has some pretty high upside. He's a massive dude. 6'6", 312. He can get a little bit bigger on the weight. But outside of that, I think he'd be a home run pick at that right tackle spot. 4th round, if you can get a quality starter in the 4th round at right tackle, like, do it. Satoa, Isaiah Adams, I have not looked into, but he's a guy that came up as well. Ooh, I don't know. He's allowed 9 sacks. Not too sure about that one. Yeah, he got 8 up. I actually remember Penn State tore him up that game. But Penn State's got Chop Robinson and Adisa Isaac. So, and we are now in the 4th round. And, I mean, guys like Seth McLaughlin's been hit or miss for Alabama. Jonah Monheim's a guy I haven't really watched much of. But like I said, I really like Blake Fisher. This is around this area when I'm doing my mock drafts. Blake Fisher is a guy that I'm looking at. And there's a guy that's going to pop up here in a second that I want to talk about that has a lot of question marks. Like, I'm kind of wondering what's going on. 5th round. I really just want to get to this guy. Here he is. Cooper Beebe. Cooper Beebe, in my opinion, is he's one of the best, if not the best, left guard in the draft. I have no idea why PFF is so low on Cooper Beebe. I think he's a top 32 pick. I think he's the 1st, 2nd, like at worst an early 2nd rounder. I would be absolutely shocked if this guy was, even in the 3rd round. Like, I'd be just like, he's allowed 1 sack this season, and that's his whole career at Kansas State. Super high grading on everything. 6'4", 335. Like, the dude checks out everything, in my opinion. I have no idea why PFF is so low on him. Have him ranked at 153. Like I said, I think he's a top 60 pick, like, easily. That is a guy I would absolutely love at left guard. And whether it is one of those top, like I said, the 2nd round pick, I have no idea why PFF, like I said, I don't know why they're so low on him. I want to say PFN has him as like a top 40 pick, maybe even like top 30 pick. I have to look because they just adjusted some stuff. Draft Network, I don't know. They've been a little weird lately. I don't know what's going on with Draft Network. But like Cooper Beebe in this spot, like, yes. Like, they're in my opinion, there's absolutely no way he's a guy that lasts till the 5th round. Absolutely no way. So I would take him in a heartbeat at this spot. Outside, we're looking at like 6th round. Who are some guys that could sneak out here? There's a couple other guys that maybe they were just taken. Javion Cohen is a guy, once again, former Alabama player. Then he transferred to Miami. I think he'd be a really good left guard spot. Once again, I think he has high upside, great mover out in space, really good at getting to that second level. I think he's a really sneaky pick. I don't think he's declared yet, but if he does declare, and he's a 5th round option, like, yes, sign me up. I'm a big fan of Javion Cohen. And not just because he played at Alabama. Looking at the 6th round, Miles Frazier, haven't really looked into much. See, in my opinion, I feel like there's a good fall off after like the 3rd round, but I do think there's some sneaky guys like Javion Cohen, like Blake Fisher. Oh man, there's another guy that goes to Missouri. I'm blanking on his name right now. Javon Foster, here he is. This is a guy I just started watching. Really good pass blocker, really good zone. As you see, 90.7, only 1 sack this year, 0 hits, 12 hurries. Played left tackle his whole career at Missouri, and he's been lights out. 6'5", 319. Maybe he can get a little bit heavier. But they had him taken at pick 160 in the 5th round. That would be a home run pick. Once again, if we decide to wait till some later rounds to take some of the offensive linemen, it's okay. Like, once again, I'm not going to freak out. Like, at least we're addressing the position. And it's really hard to pass up on a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., or if you decide to change at quarterback, then do it. Because honestly, like, nothing matters if you don't have your quarterback. You can say offensive lineman, like, nothing matters if you don't have offensive lineman. I can say the same about a quarterback. Nothing matters if you don't have a quarterback that you believe in. Jack Nelson's another guy too that I think has some upside to him. One of these little late round guys. I've watched a little bit on. But if I'm picking a lineman here in the 6th round that's on the board, the guys I really wanted were taken. I might go Coleman. Yeah, Brandon Coleman, I've seen him a little bit. He had a little bit of a dip this season after last year. You have Steve Avila next to you. He's played left guard, left tackle. I think they had some injuries at TCU, but he had Steve Avila lined up next to him last season. You go from Steve Avila to the next guy, and there's a little bit of a drop off there. Obviously, I think Steve Avila was a great prospect. But I think Brandon Coleman has some upside to him in that 6th round. And let's see, we've got one more pick here in the 7th. Who could be a 7th round sleeper? Julian Pearl's a name I've seen before. Yeah, he's just giving up a lot of sacks this season. Let's see if anybody catches my eye. Anthony Belton. Zion Nelson. Joshua Gray is another one. Yep, left tackle. Seeing a little bit of his tapes, just kind of going back to Talise Fuaga, looking at the other side of the line. Gray's a guy that's popped a lot. So honestly, Zion Nelson, Joshua Gray, 7th round, like, sign me up. I forgot why Zion didn't play this year, but I like Joshua Gray a lot. He's a guy that I watched last year as well, getting ready for the draft. So this is what my all offensive line draft looks like. I don't expect a high grade, B-. Okay. So once again, just a little recap. Should Washington take one in the top 5? I think so. I think I don't want to give my predictions on quarterback and stuff yet, but if you do go with Sam Howell, I think you have to get Olu Fashanu or Joe Alt. Like, you have to get one of those two guys. And then those 2 second picks you have, whether it is a guy like Troy Fautanu or Jordan Morgan there, if you don't go Olu Fashanu, whatever, those guys are going to start in the NFL. I think both of them will. Jordan Morgan just needs to stay healthy, but Troy just needs to be himself. Like, I think he gets sneak into the 1st round. Like, in all honesty, I think he's a 1st round talent guy. Same with Tyler Guyton, right tackle that has a lot of upside to him, just a big time freak athlete. So C. Jackson 15. Joe Alt, in my opinion, is not the number 1 offensive tackle. I think Olu Fashanu is. So like I was saying, the biggest difference between Olu Fashanu and Joe Alt, Olu Fashanu is the better pass blocker. He's got the better feet, got the better movement. Joe Alt is the stronger guy, though. So maybe he's the better run blocker. He's just the better people mover. But he's going to have to work on his footwork a little bit, get a little bit faster. He's not on Olu Fashanu's level when it comes to footwork and speed. Getting out on that edge, especially against fast guys in the NFL. But if he's, going up against a bull rusher, Joe Alt's going to handle him. But if you're going against a guy that knows how to fight hands, use his speed, get to the outside, use some ghost stunt, stuff like that, Olu Fashanu is a guy who can just use a trap move, pull him down. Like, Olu is, in my opinion, the best tackle. Like I said, some other people, not a lot. Some people have Joe Alt as the number one tackle. I'm not mad about it. Like, cool. I would be mad if you said somebody else was number one offensive tackle besides those two guys. But it just depends really what you want in your pass blocker. And in my opinion, I want Olu Fashanu. They're both 20 years old, super young, have even more upside to them. So that's phenomenal. But I think Washington also needs to look at solidifying that center spot, whether it is a Cedric Von Pron, whether it's a Zach Frazier, whether it's Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon in the third round, maybe second round. If you do go JPJ, Zach Frazier could sneak up into the high 30s. That's 68. I think he's a top 65, top 60 pick maybe. But Cedric Von Pron's a guy, once again. Washington just has to get that center spot down. And I know that when you look at the numbers, Wiley has been the most pressures and stuff out that outside. But from a standpoint of just facing defensive tackles, defensive tackles in the middle of the line, our center and our left guard spots have both been atrocious against pressure. Sam Howell is facing pressure faster than any quarterback. It seems like it's helped a lot when he's got the ball out faster, but he's still just struggling mightily, especially with that pressure on the inside. And then there's some late round sleepers. I don't think Cooper Beebe goes to the 5th round. I think he's a top, first 2 round pick. I think he's a top 90 pick. Blake Fisher is a guy that could possibly start at right tackle in the NFL. And same with Brandon Coleman and Joshua Gray, I think are some really good late round options. So I'm going to do some more deep dives. Like I said, I'm going to come up with a list of guys as I go to the Senior Bowl. I really prep hard for that. So I'll be doing interviews and stuff like that, but I appreciate y'all stopping by and watching the stream today. I'm going to upload this on my YouTube channel right afterwards. So if you came in late, you can get a look at it on JTFB YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll be back here on Bleacher Report breaking things down for y'all on the Washington Commanders. Appreciate y'all once again. And season might be over, but we got some good picks coming. So I guess that's something we could take. But thank y'all, and I appreciate it. Peace. Underdog Fantasy is the best place to participate in all of your fantasy contests, whether it's the NFL, MLB, PGA Golf, NBA, even college football. This user-friendly app, you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. And my favorite part is that when you sign up in your first deposit, you use my promo code JTFB, they will double your first deposit up to $100. Now, how does it work? You pick lower or higher on stat projections that Underdog Fantasy gives you, whether it's passing yards, rebounds, points, you name it. And for each selection, say you want to select 3 people or 4 people, your odds go up based off of how many you select. My favorite feature, however, is sometimes I want to make 4 selections and I'm not feeling too confident in all of them. I love taking advantage of the Pick'em insurance to where if I miss one pick in my contest, I still get paid out on lower odds. So sign up today, download the app, and use my promo code JTFB to get up to $100 in your first deposit.